Hello everyone and welcome to the first video of our 2018 DCG Student Assignment series. In this series we will be looking at every aspect of the DCG Student Assignment from analysing the brief to handing up your finished assignment. Today's video is going to be a short one about analysing the brief. So if you're watching this video you've probably already gotten your brief, so I don't need to go into too much detail on how your teacher gave it out. But the first thing that we need to do when we get it is to read over it and define the keywords. The keywords will then help us to do our research later because it'll give us a focus as to what to look up. So in the first sentence here we have computer mice are amongst the most popular peripheral input devices. So the important words in that sentence are computer mice and peripheral input devices. So those are two things that basically sum up the whole project. So we're looking at computer mice, and a computer mice is a peripheral input device. Their form is anthropometrically and ergonomically influenced, and many are novel in design. So a couple of important words there are we have anthropometrically and we have ergonomically. So we have two important words there on that sentence. We also, if we look a little bit further, we have novel in design. Now, as a quick aside, anthropometrically means the length of different parts of the human body. So, for example, what is the average length of somebody's fingers? What is the average size of somebody's hand? And then ergonomically then is taking those measurements and making them fit into your design so something is nice to hold. And that's particularly important in a mouse because you're always going to be holding it and you don't want it to cause any undue stress or cause any pain when you use it. Novel in design then is looking at mice that might look like something in particular. So mice that might look like footballs, mice that might look like animals, or mice that might look like cars. Next sentence then, while most are intended for everyday use, others are specifically tailored for 3D graphic applications or for use in assistive technology. So the important things there are everyday use, which is important because if you're going to use something every day, it really does have to be comfortable because you don't want to have any repetitive strain injuries, or you don't want it to be forever annoying you as you use it. Then we have 3D graphic applications. So different 3D graphic applications might require different buttons in a mouse, or it might require a mouse to be more accurate or less accurate depending on what you're using it for, or for use in assistive technology. So assistive technology then is people that have any kind of maybe disability or need extra help with using mice. So it could be people that are blind, it could be people that have restricted use of their limbs. Then we have the part A and the part B. Now the part A and the part B are just explaining what you need to do. So carry out the design investigation of an existing computer mice in graphic format. Graphic format is important there because we're going to be using sketches as well as words to do this. Your investigation should begin with a brief exploration of the historical development of computer mice. So historical development of computer mice is important because they don't ask that every year. And what it means is that you're going to have to look up what your mice were first designed and then look at how they evolved over time. And that'll need to be included in your output 1. To include an analysis of physical form and shape, size, features, color, connectivity, etc. Now, etc. is important here because they want more keywords than above. So they want more keywords than just the ones that are up here. So we'll need to find extra ones. So as you go through your student assignment, you'll find that more and more keywords start popping up the more research that you do. So part B is something that we'll look at later. Your best strategy for doing the student assignment is to do your output 1, 2, 3 before you do your part B, because once you've finished the first 3 outputs, you'll have a much better idea of what is required in a mouse, and then that'll help you design a much better mouse. Okay, so once we've underlined our keywords, we then need to look for definitions for those keywords. Now, the one that I'm going to look at here is I'm going to look at an example of computer mice. Now, computer mice is a good example for this because there are 2 words in it. And if we were to just look up one of those words individually, we'd end up getting a very different meaning than when we have the two words together. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're getting the correct definition for the keywords in this context. So the first thing that we do is we'd look up the two words in a dictionary. Now, if the dictionary has the definition that you would like and that is relevant for this, then that's great. You can work on with that. But if you have a word or two words like computer mice that work together, you want to look in other places. So you might look in encyclopedias, you might look in other places on the internet, but a good place that I think to look is in a special dictionary for computers. And a very good one of those is, there's one at computer.yourdictionary.com, and in there you can look up the two words together and it will give you a definition for it in relation to computers. And that's invaluable because you'll be able to look up loads of things about it, and when you get on to looking up more difficult things about mice, somewhere like that will give you a lot more information. Now, the important thing is any information that you get from the internet, you need to make sure that you reference it. There's nothing more important than that, because if you don't reference it, then you won't get the marks for it. Okay, so it's absolutely vital that you do that. And the best way of doing that is, as you look through all of your research, is to just copy links. So copy the links to websites that you use, and then when you go back later, you can use those links to find them. I've had countless students that have not taken down all the websites that they've used, and then by the time you get to the end of the project and you're writing your bibliography, it's a nightmare because you don't have the links, and sometimes you have to get rid of some of the stuff that you put in because you can't find the links to those websites. Okay, so do that for all of your keywords, and you'll have a much better understanding of how the brief works. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is, while you're doing your project, there's a few things that will make your project much easier for you to do if you keep doing them as you go along. Now, one of those things I would say is a really good idea is to keep a journal. Now, that doesn't mean a diaries type journal. It means an inspiration journal. So what you want is that if you are at home and you're just eating dinner or you're watching TV and you suddenly realize, oh, I have an idea of what my computer mouse might be about, you can put that into your journal. You can then forget about it, and when you're in DCG later on that week or the next day, you can talk to your teacher about it, and you can kind of expand on it further. And if you have that journal and you keep all your ideas in the same place, it just means that later on it'll be much easier for you to actually design your own mouse. Okay. Another thing that's a really good idea is that every time you see something in the real world that makes you think of the DCG student assignment, take a photograph of it. We all have phones now. Most people have cameras. So most of the time when you're just walking around the street and you think of a student assignment, it's very easy for you to take out your camera and just snap a picture of it. And although it mightn't seem relevant, it might help you later. So it doesn't really matter how random it is. It just is. This is something about trying to just have some kind of inspiration when you're looking for your own design, and to try to make your own design as original as possible. So that is the end of our first video. Please, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please comment below and subscribe to the DCGist to be the first to see new videos. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at the DCGist. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/the DCGist. We hope to put up videos regularly, but we'll be putting up the next one in the coming days. So hopefully it'll help you through your project. Okay, then we'll see you later, and good luck with analysing the brief.